Hi, I'm Melissa Leggs from By Hand London Sewing Patterns, and today I'm going to show you how to take all the body measurements you need for any sewing project. I've just written a book called Made to Measure, which is full of draft it yourself projects that don't require a sewing pattern. In the book there's a nice long list of all the body measurements that you'll need to take in order to draft simple patterns to your unique measurements and proportions. To show you how to take your own body measurements, I've got the lovely Matty and Jess here to help demonstrate. We're going to start with the full bust measurement, so take your tape measure and wrap it around the fullest part of your bust. The tape measure wants to be parallel to the floor and in line with your bra strap at the back. It's really good to take this measurement in front of a full-length mirror so you can check that you're getting that measurement across the fullest part of the bust. It's very tempting to open your arms out when you're taking your full bust measurement, but this expands your chest and can alter the measurement that you get. So you want to actually relax your arms down by your sides and breathe normally and make sure that the tape measure is firm but not squishing your boobs. Next we're going to take the high bust measurement, which is higher up on the chest. You want to shimmy that tape measure up right underneath your armpits and bring it up high on your upper chest before you get any kind of boob lift off. This wants to be nice and firm around your torso, a bit higher up than bra strap on the back. The underbust measurement is taken right underneath the bust where the underbust strap of your bra would be. Again, this wants to be nice and firm around your ribs. Now that you've taken your full bust, high bust and underbust measurements, there are some additional measurements around the bust that we're going to take that are going to help you really get the proportions right on your self-drafted pattern. First one is going to be apex to apex. Now the word apex comes up a lot in sewing patterns and self-drafting. It literally means summit, so it's the fullest part of your bust, which you can find when you turn to the side and look in the mirror. And for the apex to apex, we simply just want to know the distance between one apex and the other apex. Next we're going to take the vertical measurement between the neckline and shoulder seam intersection and the apex there. Now this one can be a little bit tricky because depending on the size of your bust, you may find, I'll just take this from you, Jess, you may find that this tape measure is not vertical, completely vertical. You may find that it comes out a little bit or it goes in a little bit. This angle will also be dependent on whereabouts along your shoulder seam you want your neckline to begin. So this will typically be, if you were drafting a pattern like this t-shirt for example, you would be taking this measurement from the edge of where the neckline is, where it crosses with that horizontal shoulder seam there. And if you were doing a dress that had a slightly wider neckline, you would be taking it more from that way there. So you want to make sure that you're not only getting this vertical measurement here, but that you're also checking in the mirror to see what kind of an angle this line is, whether it is pretty much vertical or if it's off at a bit of an angle as well. Okay, next we're going to take the apex to the underbust measurement. So that is from the apex just down to wherever it was that you took your underbust measurement. And then we're going to take the apex to waist measurement. So you're going to start at your apex and you're going to hold the tape measure straight down. You don't want to fully outline the curve of your bust because that will make this measurement a bit longer. Instead, you just want to hold the tape measure as it kind of goes straight and diagonal from the apex down to wherever it is that you're taking your waistline measurement. It really helps to tie a piece of string around your waist, as you'll see when we get to the actual taking of the waistline measurement, and that will give you a really clear indication as to where you're measuring your apex to your waist. Next we're going to take the waist measurement. Now the waist measurement is slightly different in that it can be a bit more subjective than measurements like the full bust or the high bust, in that it does depend on where you want to see that waistline seam line on your body. So again, this is a really good one to do in front of a full-length mirror, and I would recommend taking a piece of string and tying it around your waist so that you can see for yourself where it is that you want that waistline seam to be. Ignore any information that you see that says that your waistline is the smallest part of your body, 3/4 of an inch above your belly button, anything like that. Our bodies are all so different and the waistline is going to be in a different place for everybody. So I've tied the string around Mattie's waist where she wants her waistline seam to be. We're going to keep that string in place for the time being because that's also going to help us with some of the vertical measurements soon. But for now, Mattie, you can go ahead and measure your waist. Now we're going to move on to the full hip measurement. Again, this is slightly subjective from person to person, simply based on where the fullness of your bum is and also the fullness of your tummy. So I've got my piece of string, which I'm going to tie around the fullest part of Mattie's bottom. So the full hip really is like the full seat measurement. Hip is a bit misleading. We're going to be tying it around the fullest part of her bottom here, which you will need to check on yourself in a full length mirror. Some people carry the fullest part of their bum higher or lower. And once your string is in place, you can go ahead and measure the full hip. And then we're going to do the high hip measurement, which is somewhere in between the waist and the full hip. So now you can go ahead and measure the high hip. Around the string, yeah. Now we're going to take some vertical measurements between these points here, starting with the waist to high hip, and then we're going to take waist to full hip because we need to know these distances in between these areas here. We're also going to be taking these measurements down the center front, we're going to be taking them down the side seam, and we're also going to be taking them down the center back so that we have those vertical measurements for all those points on our patterns. Starting down the center front, we've got our waist to full hip with the high hip in between, down the side seam, and then down the center back. A little bit trickier, but if you just feel for the top of that string, there. So now we're going to take the measurement from the waist down to the hem. This would be for like a maxi skirt or a pair of high-waisted trousers, for example. A really good tip with this is to turn your tape measure upside down. If you start with the 1 up at your waist measurement and then you're bending over to kind of check what the number is at the bottom, you can really easily shorten that measurement. So it's much easier to flip your tape measure over, have the 1 hanging down by the bottom, and then you can place your tape measure where it is so that the bottom is hanging where you want that hem to be, and then it's much easier to check that measurement higher up on your waist. So once you've taken your waist and your full hip and your high hip measurements, you want to repeat these measurements again, but this time sitting down. This accounts for the normal expansion of flesh as you sit, and this is really, really important. Keep going, let's go. This is really important when you're making anything that's tight-fitted, like a pencil skirt or tight-fitting trousers. You want to make sure that what you actually have made, you can also sit down comfortably in as well. Wrap the tape measure around those parts again. Yeah. Take a seat and just make sure that that still feels comfortable. Now we're going to move on to some crotch measurements, and starting with the waist to seat crotch depth. So from your waist string, you're going to sit down and measure straight down to where the tape measure hits the seat. Now we're going to take the crotch measurement, and that is the measurement from your front waist down through your legs and up round the back to your back waist again. So starting at the front, and you need that waist string in place as well, that really helps here. Bring your tape measure all the way through, and then you can flip it over the string at the back to keep that in place. Here, I can get that for you. So that keeps your tape measure in place at the back. Do you want to turn around so you can see? Like that. This gives you your total crotch length from front to back, and then before you take the tape measure away, you then want to make a note of at what point along the tape measure it hits the intersection of your inseam and crotch right in between your legs. If you're wearing a pair of leggings, it's the point in which that inseam and the front seam intersect right in between your legs. Now Jess is going to take her neck measurement, and this is quite simply just the measurement around the circumference of her neck. Then the shoulder seam length is this measurement across the bridge of your shoulder here, and for however long you want your shoulder seam to be. The inside point is going to be where your neckline begins, and then the outermost point of the shoulder seam is where your sleeve would begin, or where if you have a sleeveless design wherever you want that to hit. We're going to be doing another video to show you how to map out the shoulder seam angle specific to you, so keep an eye out for that. The Armscye, also known as the armhole measurement, is from the top of your shoulder point underneath your underarm. Make sure you don't get your tape measure twisted, and round to the top on the other side. The bicep measurement is around the fullest part of your arm, usually quite close to your underarm here, but depending on where you carry the fullness in your arm, just make sure you're taking it at the fullest point. To do this measurement on yourself, wrap the tape measure around twice like Jess is doing. That way you can get a nice secure grip around your bicep without the tape measure falling off. Wrist measurement, pretty simple and straightforward. Just wrap the tape measure around your wrist. We're going to take the arm length measurement now, starting with the one of your tape measure at the shoulder point there where your sleeve starts. And then first of all, we're going to take the arm length measurement with the arm straight, so just holding it down with your hand there so you can check however long you want your sleeve to be. And then in the case of a full length sleeve, especially sleeves that have a lot of kind of billowing fullness to them like Bicep sleeves, we're going to also take this measurement with the arm bent. And if you can kind of wedge that tape measure around your elbow and then hold it there, then you can get that measurement more easily on yourself. We're now going to finish up with the leg measurements, and starting with the thigh, which is similar to the bicep in that we're just going to take the tape measure and measure it around the fullest part of the thigh. Depending on the style of trousers that you're making, you may also need to take measurements around your knee, your calf and your ankle as well. And finally, we're going to take the inseam measurement, and we're doing this in a really similar way to how we measured hem length. So we're going to flip the tape measure over so the one is hanging down at the bottom, and then you can just put the tape measure in at your inside crotch to measure the leg length of your inseam, bearing in mind the style of the trousers that you're making. If they're wide leg trousers, then you're totally fine to just let the tape measure hang down like that, like the fabric would hang. But if you're making a pair of trousers that are maybe a bit more close fitted, you want to follow the line of your inside leg a little bit more closely to get that length. We've only got a couple of measurements at the back to take. This is also because it's quite tricky to take extensive back measurements on your own, but the really important ones that we need to take is the nape to waist and then the span across the back of the shoulders. So for the nape to waist, we're starting at this little bone at the base of the neck here. So you want to just flip the tape measure around, hold it with one hand like that, and then bring it down to your waistline at the back. And then for the span across the back, we're measuring from the shoulder seam area here from one side to the other. So just pull it across your back like that, and then use your fingers to feel. It really helps if you're wearing a t-shirt that has a shoulder seam that you can feel for to measure across, or if not, then you can just feel for your bones, your shoulder bones there on either side. I hope that was really helpful and that you'll find these measurements useful when you're drafting your own bespoke patterns. We'll put a link in the description below for where you can buy the book if you want to, and also drop in any comments of any other tutorials that you'd like to see from us. Thank you.